Before legal outreach, as an 8th grader, I was a blank canvas.
I didn't really know the options that were set out for me.
I was always hesitant to take opportunities.
I was not as confident.
I didn't really have a lot of guidance and support.
But I knew I wanted to do something exciting that developed me and helped me grow into a great human being, a great adult.
Growing up in the neighborhoods that I did, I had a limited set of options, and LO was able to make me think well beyond that.
I never thought that I could mesh my passion for community work with my commitment to social justice with the rigor of the law.
And I felt that like during my 4 years at Legal Outreach, I really learned to feel like, I can literally achieve whatever it is I set my mind to.
Because legal outreach exposed me to all that life has to offer outside of the inner city.
Now, because of legal outreach, I know I can.
After graduating from Harvard Law School in 1982, I could not have predicted that I would be at the helm of an organization that would impact life trajectories. When I came to Harlem over 40 years ago with a 1-year public interest law fellowship, the only thing I knew was that I wanted to be a part of the continuing struggle to equalize opportunity, especially for minorities who had been historically denied their rights to full citizenship within this great country, and whose life prospects were marginal at best. As an African American growing up in the South, I realized that I was fortunate to have made my way to Harvard, but once I arrived, I was quickly exposed to the differences governing the life prospects of the privileged versus the underprivileged. It was all in plain view. Yet, it ignited within me an intense desire to be a part of the movement to bridge the divide by expanding educational opportunities for those growing up in urban communities. I wanted to improve the odds for success. It was a journey of faith, but as it began, I was fortunate to meet 2 people who played a critical role in the creation and establishment of LO. One was the other co-founder of the organization, Dennis Cotto, who partnered with me for 2 years before attending Georgetown Law School.
Well, I was born and raised in East Harlem, a product of a broken family, but I had some people in my life who gave me an opportunity to go to college. And in college, at Hampshire College, I had an epiphany that in order to succeed, you have to have not only people, but you have to have the right tools to change and break that cycle of poverty. And so I came back to my community of East Harlem. First thought that the solution would be to help people through paralegal services that James and I, in our original office, we had a team of paralegals helping folks in the community with their legal issues. But afterwards, I realized that that was a short-term solution to a long-term problem, and realized that education, meaning the curriculum that we would later develop to empower kids to think critically, analytically, that was going to be the key tool to breaking that cycle of poverty and allowing the kids in our communities to prosper.
The target audience during those early years were students from Harlem and East Harlem. Working through the school system, and especially with social studies teachers, we sought to provide young people with instruction about rights and responsibilities and insights as to how the law and the legal system could be used to improve the quality of life in their communities. The goal was to motivate students to become active citizens and advocates for change in their homes and neighborhoods, with a secondary goal of inspiring them to think about law as a potential career path. We sought to do so by creating a full-year, multifaceted law program built upon a curriculum called Law in the Community, which later became known as Law and Social Problems.
I was a middle school teacher, 8th grade, social studies teacher in Harlem in District 5. Our school participated in a legal outreach program.
It was tremendous. The social studies curriculum overwhelmingly meant teaching history. And, you know, despite your best efforts as a teacher to make it interesting, there was a lot that was lacking. And with the legal outreach program, things involved students to a far greater degree.
They found interest in it because it was relevant to their life, whether it was landlord-tenant stuff, whether it was about the criminal justice process. All those things really resonated. For a lot of my students, it was the first time they had to really put that level of effort in academically to accomplish something like that. For them to have to like apply their knowledge in that type of way to, you know, present arguments and to really replicate what a legal proceeding was like, it took a lot of students to the next level in terms of their ability to follow through on things, in terms of their critical thinking, in terms of their confidence.
Getting them to understand how all that works was a real challenge for them, but they rose to the occasion. It pushed students, young middle school students, to excel.
Though the curriculum was engaging and relevant, we knew that instruction alone was not enough. To change attitudes and affect behavior, we had to expose students to people in the profession who could give them hope.
When I was a first-year law student at Columbia Law School, I signed up for a class that was called Teaching Law and Social Problems because it sounded interesting, but also the professor was African American. And as an African American law student at the time at Columbia, it was a rare treat to have someone who looked like me actually teaching a course.
So I took the course with James O'Neill, and we spent the first semester developing curriculum to talk about in classrooms with, I think, 8th graders. We covered topics like landlord-tenant issues, PINs, persons in needs of supervision, and other relevant topics that the students might relate to, either with their own personal lives or their families' lives.
I know firsthand what it's like to grow up in a zip code where resources aren't available, where schools are not as, they're not as robust.
And being a law student at the time, being a young law student, young Black woman, I think that made a difference to them. It made a difference to me also.
I could see the brilliance, really, of James's idea of, you know, using these legal issues that had a lot of dynamism to it, that had a lot of relevance.
I mean, they were like an open book, really wanting to learn about how the law affected them and how they could affect the law, and it was fun.
I also know it helped them to be curious and grasp the law in a way that was understandable. So again, if they understand the law, they can think, maybe I could go to law school.
Just as importantly, we had to involve them in exercises and processes, mock trials and moot court competitions that could increase their belief in the system's fairness.
One of the things that struck me about the program was that it showed the students that they could be a part of the system of criminal justice and not just subject to it, that they could attain roles as lawyers, as prosecutors, as defense lawyers, as judges even, and be part of the change in the system.
Whenever you get to have people around you who genuinely respect your capability and are supportive of, not only in words, but in action, of your desire to be whatever it is that you want to be it an attorney, be it a doctor, astronaut, president, you name it. You could see the lights coming on, and you could see what was great in the mock trials and in the practice for the mock trial was just seeing them get into it, you know?
So I think it was it's important for them to see how the system works. Obviously, there can be a perception that the system of justice is stacked against you. I think through participating in the mock trial program, they saw that the courts and the law aren't necessarily just a system of oppression, but a system, an opportunity to obtain justice for everybody.
You know, debating, constitutional debating, learning debate skills is not something that, you know, is useful only in, you know, the context of high school debating or whatever. It's a skill that really transfers over to everything you do, you know, for the rest of your life. And that's, you know, advocating for yourself, developing a sense of confidence in your abilities in front of an audience, feeling confident in the things that you learn, and feel confident in expressing an opinion.
There was a newfound sense of hope that emerged within us and confidence that arose within the students through the implementation of the program. From the early 80s through the late 80s, we were elated because it was clear that this full-year law-based program for 8th graders was a game changer. Students saw, experienced, and latched on to the possibilities. However, by the time we reached the late 80s and early 90s, it became equally as clear that a one-year program, no matter how dynamic, was not powerful enough to thrust students through high school and into college, where they would at least have a fighting chance to pursue their dreams. The multifaceted law program was necessary, but not sufficient.
As we randomly encountered our middle school participants who were now in high school, I became more and more frustrated because it was apparent that our former students were not being prepared to pursue the bright futures we'd predicted for them. Extremely capable students were falling by the wayside. They weren't acquiring the skills, receiving the support, nor developing the disciplines necessary to change their career paths.
Though we didn't have any funding that first year, we, at Bathsheba's insistence, made a commitment to support through high school a limited number of 8th grade students each year. We would provide them with 4 years of academic help, professional exposure, and motivational activities that would enable them to maximize their grades and scores and keep their educational and career hopes alive.
Those programs included a series of life and study skills workshops, an academic advisory program, a 4-year writing program, and a constitutional law debate competition. Those programs were followed by summer internships, a summer SAT prep program, and a college-level philosophy course. The programs were then capped off with a college admissions workshop, supplemented by individual advising that enabled us to direct students toward the types of schools that would keep their hopes and dreams alive. This series of programs became known as College Bound.
Everyone at Legal Outreach had and has big dreams for every child that steps through the doors, and they understand what it takes to create lasting change. They keep everyone focused on the prize to the best of their abilities and provide opportunities to develop and hone those skills to be competitive and successful at a higher level.
It wasn't until Legal Outreach that I knew what was involved in going to college, and I was excited about going to college because I had done all these papers already because of the Saturday writing class, and I had done the mock trial, and Legal Outreach really instilled in us that college was the next step, and this is what you have to prepare for to get to college, and this is what you're going to expect in college. And I had never really been excited about the process until I understood the process, and that was because of Legal Outreach.
The 4-year, year-round college-bound program worked. Our Harlem students were not only graduating from high school, but gaining admission to competitive colleges. The success of the newly created college-bound program in the 90s led to expansion opportunities. We were featured on NBC News with Tom Brokaw and highlighted as an example of, quote, what works. That national exposure led to calls from parents all over New York City who wanted to know how to enroll their child or children in the program.
When my daughter was graduating from middle school and entering high school, I had some fears and concerns. My fear was that she wasn't going to receive the education that she needed for college from a public high school.
So after doing my due diligence and seeing all that Legal Outreach offered for my children and for my son, it helped me as a individual who grew up in the inner city, who wasn't afforded opportunities to excel in higher education, knowing that they would get the proper education, or should we say double school, as my children would put it, helped me to push the envelope a little further to say, yes, you have to be a part of this program, because in order to be a professional, you have to be educated.
They became more confident. They learned things that they would not have learned had they not participated. And they were also excited about the exposure that they were going to get to colleges, to law firms, regardless of what they were doing there.
Not only did Legal Outreach help her academically, but as the saying goes, it takes a village, and Legal Outreach was my village.
With funding, we were able to expand from Harlem to other underserved communities in Manhattan, then from Manhattan to Brooklyn, from Brooklyn to Queens, and finally from Queens to the Bronx. To serve more students, rather than work with school districts, we formed alliances with law schools to introduce 8th graders to the law through a 5-week summer law institute that was a condensed version of the full-year law program implemented in Harlem.
I view the SLI program as kind of the beginning for me. I came into the program with a lot of energy, a lot of excitement and hope for the future, but not really sure how or where to channel it.
The 5-week course definitely helped me understand the importance of really dedicating my life to not only my profession, but also developing my character.
I was always very self-motivated, and I always wanted better for myself in a sense, but I think that summer really showed me that there was no limits to what I could achieve.
So it was really much like a dream, and maybe an unattainable dream to be a lawyer, but going through SLI, it made it all very tangible.
It was such a huge launch board for what I thought of myself and how I thought I could build my life, and even who I became in high school and later in college.
I started to really think, wow, someone actually wants more for me. They want me to go to college. They want me to be able to not only have a seat at the table, but also understand, what do I do once I have a seat at the table?
SLI really allowed me to create a vision where there wasn't one before, right? I've been saying I wanted to be an attorney, but didn't really understand what that was.
So as I think about the College Bound program, what stands out to me the most is how much LO actually believed in me, and the fact that they saw so much more than I saw it myself. I think beyond what you'll hear time and again from all the other alumni is that the resources that we had in our high school weren't frankly enough.
So Legal Outreach's greatest impact was my education. It served as my primary source of education in high school. I didn't go to a competitive school, and many of my peers in the program were often 1 to 2 levels in math and science ahead of me. So it definitely helped me to be a better student and matriculate into Babson College.
It's about exposure, because when you are in high school, the public school system will only provide you so much. When you have an extended after-school program that's free, and you allow students to become exposed to debates, to other peers, learning SATs, you're giving them an opportunity to really open avenues to other success in life and opportunities in life that you can take.
Not only did we practice speaking persuasively, but we had to speak in front of people, which for most people, especially at that age, you're, in an official setting, of course, it's quite nerve-wracking. But I feel like I came alive, and that's why I continued with LO, because I loved it so much.
Now I was in an environment with like-minded people who are wanting to break generational curses and wanting to really make a mark in the world,
So seeing other people who also wanted to do the same thing that I did, maybe not the law route, but just making sure that they can excel in everything that they do, really gave me that confidence.
They were committed to making sure that I made it out of that program, not just graduating from high school, but actually achieving the success that I'd set, the success and the goals that I had set for myself very early on.
I can honestly say that the College Bound program prepared me for being an attorney just as much as law school did. From the grammar classes to the debate competitions, I learned so much about the basics of what I needed to do to be a successful professional, and those carried on to being a successful attorney as well.
I think that without Legal Outreach, I definitely would not have had the resources that I need. My parents and myself, being immigrants, we didn't know how the college process worked or the things that we should be thinking about, from participation in extracurriculars to preparing to financially pay for college. Legal Outreach helped provide all of those resources and then helped me build a baseline skill set.
I didn't have anyone from my family to really look to for help, or I'm a first-generation student, so that was not really an option for me. So it was either I'm figuring out on my own, but then it's Legal Outreach coming in to provide that support.
I feel like Legal Outreach planted a seed in me and considering the possibility of having a legal career and being confident doing so.
So while Legal Outreach is still about law, it also positioned me to build my skills so I can be in areas, be in the rooms where different professionals were there and still be able to speak for myself and make myself sound as a smart young man.
I'm sitting in front of a board of executives every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And part of that presentation skill really was honed in Legal Outreach through mock trials. The first time winning a mock trial debate felt like I was on top of a mountain. So that confidence and just understanding that I can present and I can really motivate people to not only take action has helped me day in and day out in my day-to-day job.
One thing that I really want to stress is I think there are a lot of organizations right now that are focused on bringing more diversity to the table, but what Legal Outreach does that is really special is they empower you to have a voice once you're at the table. So it's not just about getting there, but it's really about using that voice to make a difference.
As we began to expand, we realized that a significant number of firms, corporations, agencies, departments, legal and non-legal, wanted to be a part of the solution to the inequities and inequalities that prevented underserved students from realizing their full potential. Many were looking for a vehicle for providing help and assistance. We gladly filled that role. We thus partnered with law firms, law departments, and corporations to establish programs that would provide our students with exposure, help them develop skills, and build their self-confidence so that they could then pursue professional careers.
35 years ago or so, I received a call from a young man named James O'Neill. He was looking for firms who could take in 3 interns for a few weeks or a week in the summer to expose them to the practice of law. And I was very taken with the idea. Sometimes we as lawyers spend too much time within the confines of our office and don't think enough about our community.
You know, for us as a firm, I think, you know, we're obviously very devoted to finding kids like the legal outreach kids and bringing them into the firm. But it's also important for us in a kind of public spirited way to do what we can to help kids like the legal outreach kids succeed in the world.
It's also been a wonderful opportunity for us to meet students, and I think hopefully it's been a great opportunity for legal outreach students to get to meet lawyers and staff at some of the larger firms in the city.
We see it as a way of giving, and I find with all of these types of efforts, but particularly with legal outreach, that I get more than I personally get, and we get more just from the exposure and the experience of being with these children than they get from us.
I think it's been a valuable experience for many of our staff and lawyers just to be exposed to a program like Legal Outreach, to be able to be part of that journey. It's also been a really valuable program, I think, for the students that have been involved, because they can be exposed to an environment where we're practicing law at hopefully the highest levels, and they get to see what that looks like.
In just a short number of days, I see the transformation in their self-confidence, in their ability to communicate, in their willingness to learn. And they're not uncomfortable anymore in the context of a law firm or dealing with legal issues. They feel much better about themselves. And to me, that's a critical gift that Legal Outreach gives to its students.
It was absolutely terrific. Guess what? My little cohort showed up in their blue suits, and the ladies in their lawyer-alike outfits, and they got to work. Now I happened to put my little group together writing bills. Now they may have been 13 and 14 years old, but I can tell you one thing: they knew how to charge. So we had a wonderful time.
Within this last decade, we have expanded our partnerships by working with a number of non-legal corporations that are striving to achieve more diversity within their ranks.
Legal Outreach provides us as a business the ability to develop a business culture that looks at the full picture, that includes an ecosystem of people, neighborhoods, and the city of New York in the best possible way.
So what we love about the professional exposure programs that we have had at the bank is working with the students, and we've been blown away by their talent and their appetite to hear about the bank and our stories, the legal team. We've watched them evolve from semester to semester, and it's just been really impressive to see.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. And the way Legal Outreach works with students from an early age and helps to develop them throughout high school and following them into college is just fantastic. And we look forward to partnering with them in the future as we continue our mission on diversity, and look forward to seeing Legal Outreach succeed for another 40 years.
Each has played a vital role in creating and sustaining our rigorous and comprehensive model. Each partnership that has increased our students' prospects for success has given them hope for the future, has built their confidence in their ability to achieve their goals, and has changed their educational and career trajectory. And there you have it, 4 decades and still going strong.